Hey everybody, welcome in. This is Julie Maxon, the main stamper, and I am here with our club, online club, April Designer Series Paper Challenge. Now this month we are doing a challenge called Rip and Flip. Now if you recall, in January we did One Sheet Wonders with 12 by 12 paper. February we did the Pick 6 with 6x6 paper, and then in March we did the Stack, Shuffle, Repeat. So we are on to Rip and Flip, and aren't these names fun? This one is my favorite technique by far because it is so easy. Also, there are great ways to use up designer series paper without piling up extra scraps. And I don't know about you, but all those extra scraps in my craft room are just not necessary. I like to be able to use the paper up and not have little extra bits left behind. So this is a great technique. My club girls, you will have received in the mail a sampling of some designer series paper and a card base to get you started. And I'm going to work through some cutting today. I'm going to do some assembly with you. And I'm also going to show you some finished samples of both the 12 by 12 kind of paper and a 6x6 kind of paper, and a great workaround for the 6x6. This technique really is ideal for the 12 by 12, but you can use 6x6, and I'm going to show you how. So let's go over to my workspace. We're going to talk about Rip and Flip. All right, so in your direction packet, I told you a little bit about what the Rip and Flip does. You're going to start with designer series paper that has coordinating colors and complementary patterns. Now this is obviously very easy to do with Stampin' Up! Paper because it's gorgeous and it matches. You're going to cut your designer series paper to 4x6 for this technique. And then I'm going to show you the flipping here in just a minute. Now the size does matter. Your A2 card front is 5.5. We do need a 6-inch length of this paper because when we rip it and overlap it, we're going to actually shorten the paper, even though we're using all 6 inches, but not all 6 inches are going to show. So this is a really great thing. If you prefer a mat under your DSP, you can cut your mat to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, which is 1/8 inch larger than the DSP, and that gives you an additional peep of color, but you don't have to do that. Now, we're also going to talk about 6x6 paper, but not for a little bit. For the 12 by 12, I love this because you can easily take your 12 by 12 paper. Now this is not to size, clearly. This is my little sketch. 12 by 12 paper, we're pretending. And we're going to cut it in half, so we've got 6 inches on each side. So you have two 6 by 12s, and then you're going to cut these at 4 inches. So you're going to be able to get 6 card fronts out of one 12 by 12 piece of designer series paper, and I think that that is so cool. We'll talk about the 6x6 afterwards. The paper that I'm using for today's challenge is the Pansy Petals. I love this paper, and this will be retiring very, very shortly. So we've got all these beautiful pansy patterns down here. You have 4 samples in the mail. Pansies on one side, right? In beautiful solid colors. Now obviously not solid. We've got dots and flowers and checks and stripes, all the good stuff, but they coordinate really, really well. So I wanted to show you that, and I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about orientation of your paper. Okay, so this is a 12 by 12, and I know it's probably really hard to see the whole thing in my camera. I have a full sheet of 12 by 12. Orientation matters when you're doing your first cut. So you would look at this and you're going to think, I need to cut it in half first, and then I'm going to make 4x6 papers. Let me flip it this way. These 4x6s are going to look a little bit easier to see, I think. So you can see that my 4x6s, I got 3 across here, 4 inches, 4 inches, 4 inches, right? So I know that I need to cut my 6 inches with the orientation going what would be considered sideways. So I'm going to cut this one right now here. I'm going to get my trimmer over here. So your first cut is actually going to be a sideways cut. Now the paper trimmer here is fantastic because the 6 is right here. Your paper will line up perfectly if you want a 6-inch cut. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. And here's my very first cut. So I have 6 inches by 12 inches right here. And from here, we're doing our 4-inch cuts. So I'm going to just line this up at 4 inches. And here is how you get your 4x6. So obviously I'm doing a portrait card, And you know, this will work for either direction, whether I'm going this way or this way. And that is how you want to cut. So if I had cut it the opposite way first, then I would be making some landscape cards, because we need to have that. The 6-inch side should be facing up if you're making a portrait card, depending on your pattern. So that's really important to take into consideration when you're working with your designer series paper. All right, so let's talk about how easy it is here to do rip and flip, right? So again, some beautiful designs, orientation facing in the portrait position. And you're basically, per the directions, you're gonna come down about 2/3 of the way on the 6-inch length. So here's the 6-inch length. And really all you're gonna do is rip it. We just rip this paper. So when you play with your patterns, you're going to put it on your card front. You're going to keep one side facing in one direction and the other side facing in another direction. So this could possibly be a card front. But if I like the orange polka dots on the top and I want the pansies on the bottom, this could also be a card front. So you can see that these are going to overlap when they go onto the card base, but it's just really that simple. So you take your paper, you rip it, and then you flip it. So it's just like that. There's another card front right there. So again, 4x6 paper, about 2/3 of the way down. You can rip it a little bit more jagged if you like. And we've got this one here. Look how cute these are, right? And it's so easy. You're just taking your paper. So again, look at the orientation before you do your ripping and just make sure you've got everything going in the right direction. And here is my next one. Look how easy that is. Now let's put them on some card bases. I have color card bases that I wanted to try out. So I've got some different colors that coordinate with my designer series paper here. And I know I want to use Blackberry Bliss with this one because I just love these pansies on this color. Now when you put this on, you're going to decide whether you want the overlap to come from the bottom up, or if you want the overlap to go from the top down. So you can see that it looks completely different depending on which way you go, right? For all of my sample cards, I went in this direction, but for the sake of being different, I'm going to do the opposite right here so that we can just kind of see a comparison. I will be showing you my sample cards here shortly, and then you can see how they finished up. So basically, you're just going to center this on your card base. You're going to leave that nice little matted edge all along the 3 sides right here. You're not paying attention to the rip part. And I said that I was going to do this opposite and I didn't. All right, let me see. I have some wiggle room here. We're going to make this work. See, talking and doing things at the same time, not always easy. All right, I am tucking this in underneath so that the rip comes down on the top. And I might have to add a little extra glue here now. Oh yeah, I can feel it sticking though, so that's good. All right, so this time my rip has come down the card front. So the rip is coming this way. And I really like that on that color. All right, I have some more colors here and I'm just gonna play with these for a second because to be honest, I'm not even sure which way I wanna go with some of them. But this is the fun. This is the fun of like just the playing of, definitely want these together. And I know that I've done some different designs on my other cards that I'm going to be showing you shortly. We've got soft succulent here. And again, I'm going to try to leave this up a little bit because I am in the habit now of doing it the opposite way. Now I'm trying to do it the other way, and it's just really difficult to turn my brain around, I guess. All right, so again, I've got the ripped coming down rather than up, and I've got the little green stripey there on the bottom. So there's a couple of cards. Aren't these fantastic? Like, do you love this technique? All right, I'm going to use this one here. The opposite paper was this one. Let's see. I like the pansies. All right, yep. This time I'm going to remember that I'm putting this one on the bottom first because I'm going to cover it over with the top. So once you get going into a rhythm, it is super easy. And you can mix and match your papers and you don't have any scraps left over. That's like my favorite part. All right, so we're going to just put this one on here. Okay, so here's that one, and that one's on Petal Pink. Really pretty. All right, I have one more that I'm going to do. I think I wanted this one to be on the Polished Pink, and I do. So I'm going to put this one on the bottom here real quick. It's got the nice purple. This will be a very springy purple and pink card. And a little bit of adhesive here. And here we go. All right, so that just keeps everything really nicely centered on the card bases. So here are my 4 card fronts that I've got going on. So again, the rip is coming down this way, and I did use color card bases for these. So this is what they look like, really pretty, right? Now I'm gonna show you the samples of ones that I've already finished. So let me bring in some of these, and you're gonna see I used white card bases for these, and I have the smaller piece overlapping the top piece on these. So, and I have actually used different orientations here. So you can see that I used, you know, you have to decide when you rip and flip, you have to decide which side you want on the, you know, on the front of the top and which side you want on the bottom. So here are complete opposites, but both really pretty. I finished these off with the Elegant Tag Punch. This is the tag punch, and I just punched a whole bunch of tags in different colors. These are my leftovers because I was playing with color, and I used the Elegantly Said stamp set. I took this big stamp and I just stamped the swirlies on the tag after I punched it out, and I did the For You stamp right here, and then I just did a little flag there, and then I used the sprig punch right here, one of my absolute favorites, and I cut 2 sprigs in different colors. I did some twine on here, and I'm going to show you how I completely did that here. So after I show you the rest of my samples. Now this is one, I didn't rip and flip this design paper, but it is in the same paper pack. So this one is featuring the Evening Evergreen, and then the Soft Succulent for the little leaves there, again on a white card base. This one is, I kept it the same here for this one. But you can see the difference between bringing the top over top or bringing the bottom up this way. So you're going to see a little bit of a different pattern going on there. So again, that one's got, everything's got the tag, the same tag punch, the same sprigs. I kept it really easy. This is one that I did the opposite for. So this is how it looked when I just put it together. So again, flipping, you can do this with multiple times and have just different combinations, which is really awesome. And then this one, I also kept the same. I really like that pansy on the top. When you bring it from the bottom up, you're going to see more of the bottom. When you bring it from the top down, unless you rip it differently, you're going to see less of the color on the bottom. So that is the rip and flip. Whether you're using color card bases, white card bases, this is just a really great way to quickly and easily decorate. I love to use punches for things like this. So I would use like bigger punches like this one. We've got this Everyday Label tag punch. So these are great punches to do your sentiment for, and then add that extra sprig. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just to do that. This would look great in vellum too, a little bit of twine here. So let me show you real quick how I put those together so you kind of have an idea. I have a starter here. So I already did my, I punched out my tag and I stamped it, so you can see that awesome stamped image on there. I've got my 2 little sprigs. I've got my For You stamped and flagged, and we're gonna go ahead and look for my twine. We're gonna get all my supplies here, and I'm gonna show you my assembly process. All right, so I started with a little bit of tear and tape for this one. And I'm going to just put a little bit here on the front, and I'm going to put a little bit here. So this is the front. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put a little bit right here on the back. Okay, so you can see those right there. And we're going to take the adhesive off the top, front and back. Trying to get this off of here. Where's my scissors? Okay, scissors. Peel this off a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I've got sticky front and back, and I'm just going to take my twine and I'm going to start it here on the front, and I'm going to wrap it around to the back, and then I'm going to just do like a really quick return. So this is my return right here. So it's stuck here on the back, and I'm going to come back around to the front and catch my tape over here, and then I'm going to cut this. So I'm not actually wrapping this twine around twice. It's going to be the illusion of the twine wrapped around twice. but it's really not. This is a great frugal way to do this because we're going to be hiding a bunch of this later on. So there's my return, and here's my front, just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue this down onto my card base. Just a little bit of glue, and it's got a little bit of sticky tape on the back as well. And I'm just going to put it over here. So it's kind of covering, you know, both the top and the bottom of my card. Okay, and now I'm going to add a little bit of glue right here, top and bottom of my sticky tape, and I'm going to put my sprigs down. I'm going to put one there, and I'm just catching the base of my sprig, and I'm putting it right down there, so that catches that. Now, if you thought, wow, that's really not very good, it's not gonna, how is that gonna hold anything? You can take some more tear and tape if you want to, and just catch the ends if you feel better about doing that. So you can do this too. You don't even have to remove that now, because we're gonna put this over top right here, and that's gonna cover your tear and tape. Now this is gonna go on with a couple of dimensionals right here. I'm gonna take these off. And we're going to put this on right about here. So the flag piece is coming over quite a bit. And so here we got the bones of our card, right? But we're missing our fancy little bow ribbon. I'm going to bring in a glue dot for this part. And I'm going to grab a glue dot off of my roll here. And I'm going to tuck this glue dot right in here on the crease of where I have my flagged piece of sentiment, right? So the glue dot just went right there. I'm going to make a little bow here. And my linen thread is really super curly, getting toward the end of my roll here, and it's been rolled up pretty tight. So I'm just tucking in the knotted end of my little bow right here, and it's going to kind of stick out here on the end. It's going to be all curly like. Now this gives the great illusion that this ribbon is wrapped around twice, and then it's bow tied here on the end. And you can, you know, from all of my machinations here of how I did this card, you can see that I clearly did not wrap that twice, and the bow is not even attached to any of that. I just tucked that in with a little glue dot, and just like that for all of these little cards that I did, all of my sample cards, you can see how curly my ribbon is. It's kind of cute. So those are all my samples, exactly the same, with the For You and the little sprigs, right? So that's all using the 12 by 12 paper and the beautiful Pansy Patch Designer Series paper. But there's more. We're going to talk about the 6 by 6 paper. Okay, so if you're using 6 by 6 paper, it's going to change things up just a little bit, right? So your 6 by 6, you can't cut this into a 4 by 6 without having a scrap. So your 6 by 6, if you're going to cut it at 4 inches, you're going to have 2 by 6 left over. So what are you going to do with that 2 by 6? Are you going to like stick it in a package of, you know, like all of these scraps? Am I ever going to use these scraps? So I came up with a workaround that's going to allow you to take your 6 by 6 paper, cut it up for this design, and just run with it. So the first thing I have here is cut your 6 by 6 in half. So 6 by 6 becomes 2 3 by 6s. So this is a 3 by 6. This would be the other half of it. So I took this one and I ripped and flipped, and this is the card that I came up with, right? So I just ripped it here, flipped it here like this, and here's my card. Now I did create an evening evergreen mat for behind, and this is on a crumb cake base. So it went on here just like that. Again, the mat is just 1/8 of an inch larger than the Designer Series paper. So it's that easy, right? So you just used one sheet of 6 by 6 paper, and you've got 2 card fronts. Maybe you want to go this way with the next one. So you've got 2 completely different card fronts. Isn't that even better, right? Mix it up. Okay, so that's one option. The other option is maybe you really like the 4 by 6 look. Maybe you're not into that whole like, it's not the whole card front. What am I going to do? So we're going to cut this at 4 inches, right? So this is our 4 by 6, just like we had earlier. And again, we're looking at orientation. We're going to rip it. right? So here is our card front, whether we go this way or this way or this, you know, however we want to do it. This way maybe. I like that one. Okay, but you have an extra piece left over and we're trying to avoid putting this in a bag and setting it aside. So what are we going to do with this extra piece? There's a couple of things we're going to do. First, we're going to just cut it right down to into 4 inches. So we have 2 by 4 and we have 2 by 2. Now the 2 by 2 we're going to set aside. I have a special project for that. And this one will look fantastic whether it's inside your card front. I'm sorry, inside your card, right? So sometimes I like to put extra designer series paper in. If there was a mat here, this would be the perfect size for the mat. But this looks a little chunky to me and I wasn't quite as happy with it as I thought I would be. So I'm going to just cut this now into 2 1-inch strips. So now I have 2 1 by 4 inch pieces of paper. And you're probably thinking, okay, now where are you going with that? So let's look at my other samples. So these are using the same paper pack. This is a 6 by 6 paper pack. I did use white bases for all of these. So again, these were the 4 by 6s that I just cut up. And inside these little 1 by 4s, right here, you can see the same size, right? Look at how cute. You can use these on the inside of your card and there's still plenty of room to do your sentiment and signing. So you have to just be really aware of the orientation of your paper. Sometimes this is going to work and sometimes it is not going to work. This one worked because these little snowflakes seem to, you know, they can go in any orientation. They looked really good. This one also worked. I use this pattern right here. This worked really well here as well in the bottom of this card base, but these ones didn't quite work out as well. So as I open these up, you're going to see that the orientation of both of these patterns is really an up and down orientation. So I decided that I would overlap them here for the inside of this card rather than put them along the bottom because I couldn't get them in the landscape position and have them look decent. This one I changed up a little bit. And I use the orientation, again, in the portrait position. And I've got one on each side of my fold, so it gives a kind of a little bit of interest. Because if I had put it sideways, these little design would be kind of going this, they would be going this way across the bottom. And if I did it sideways with the stripes would be going in the opposite direction that they're going on the front. And I just wasn't happy with it. So there are lots of different ways that you can mix and match those little 1-inch strips. And I really like it when they work out well on the bottom of either side. So those are some samples there of how you can use up at least a 2 by 4 from your leftover scraps. Now, if you wanted to use those on another project, you certainly could. I do like to decorate inside a little bit too whenever I can. Remember we had this extra 2 by 2 piece? If you save up a whole bunch of your 2 by 2s, you're going to be able to create something like this. So this is all extra pieces from the stripey, this piece right here, this piece is right here, and this piece is right here. So by using how many sheets? 4 sheets of 6 by 6 paper, I came up with 5 different cards. So I've got my cards here that have the extra inside pieces, and I've got this nice little square effect. So these are all 2 by 2. These are all my little 2 by 2s that were left over, right? So I could start over and keep going with more paper. I glued them on here. If you wanted to put them on a mat before you put them on your card front, you could. And I just did a sentiment with some gold bling on that one. So this one's finished up nicely. So those are some samples of ideas, right? Lots of different ideas of ways that you can use your designer series paper that is 6 by 6. I was looking for my other Christmas card. Here it is. So here's all from the paper pack there, and this is the Tidings of Christmas paper pack. So again, if you're looking for paper that works really well, front and back, you just have to watch your orientation, and you can cut these papers up, and you can do rip and flip technique. So there we go, guys. I hope that you found this one fascinating and super easy, right? I mean, how hard is it to cut a paper? Pretty simple, 4 by 6, and then rip it. I think the most difficult thing and the thing you really need to pay attention to is the orientation of your paper. Otherwise, you're making landscape cards. So if you can't do a portrait card do a landscape card, right? I mean, these work as cards too. So do a landscape if you have to, which might even be more fun. I hadn't even thought of trying that. So maybe that's something I'm going to try next. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it inspires you to do some ripping and flipping. And I just love the fact that we can use those designer series papers and create beautiful cards and not have piles and piles of scraps left over. So let me know what you think. I'm hoping that I see some samples using some of these techniques soon. And if you haven't had a chance to check out the other videos for my designer series paper challenges, go back and check them out. They are on our online club Facebook group privately, and they are also on YouTube. I'm putting these on YouTube for lots of people to check out and see, in case I can inspire other people to be creative as well. So that's what I've got for this month. I hope you guys are enjoying. We are coming back in May with our next challenge, so stay tuned for one more designer series paper challenge. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.